The morning air bit at Renee Carter's cheeks as she hurried down the busy sidewalk, her worn leather boots splashing through puddles left by the night's rain. She checked her watch. 7:45 a.m. 15 minutes to make it to Helios Technologies, where she'd been working as an administrative assistant for the past 8 months. The job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and provided health insurance for her 10-year-old son, Micah. "Excuse me," she mumbled as she sidestepped a group of tourists gawking at the city skyline. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Micah's babysitter, Mrs. Johnson, was running late again. Renee's heart sank. She had a department meeting at 8:30 sharp, and her boss, Derek Sloan, had already warned her twice about tardiness. Single parenthood was a constant balancing act, and lately it felt like she was performing without a safety net. Renee turned the corner onto Elm Avenue, picking up her pace. That's when she heard it, a sharp screech of tires followed by a dull thud and a groan. 20 yards ahead, a black man lay crumpled on the sidewalk, his expensive-looking briefcase spilled open beside him. The culprit, a delivery bike, sped away without stopping, the rider looking back with panic on his face. For a split second, Renee hesitated, glancing at her watch again. 7:48 a.m. She bit her lip, looking from the injured man to the direction of her office building, visible just 3 blocks away. "Sir, are you all right?" Renee knelt beside the man, who was trying to sit up, his face contorted in pain. He was in his early 40s, with salt and pepper hair and a tailored charcoal suit now smeared with dirt and what looked like coffee from a spilled travel mug. His deep brown skin was warm beneath her touch as she checked for injuries. "I'm fine," he winced, attempting to stand before falling back with a sharp intake of breath. "My ankle." Renee noticed how his right foot twisted at an unnatural angle. "You need medical attention. I'm calling an ambulance." "No ambulance," the man insisted, his voice strained but authoritative. "I have a meeting I can't miss." Renee almost laughed at the irony. "With respect, sir, you can't even stand." The man's piercing dark eyes met hers. "I'll manage." He tried again to rise, only to collapse against the brick wall behind him, his face now ashen. "Look, I'm already late for work myself, but I can't leave you like this," Renee said, dialing 911 despite his protests. After explaining the situation to the dispatcher, she helped gather the scattered papers from his briefcase. The letterhead caught her eye. Adrian Cole, Chief Executive Officer, Helios Technologies. Her heart stuttered. It couldn't be. "You work at Helios?" she asked, her voice suddenly dry. The man, Adrian Cole, nodded, grimacing as he shifted position. "I do." Renee swallowed hard. She'd never met the CEO in person. He worked on the top floor and rarely interacted with lower-level employees. In the company directory photo, he had been clean-shaven with shorter hair. This man looked more rugged, but the eyes were unmistakable. "I work there too," she said quietly. "Administrative assistant in marketing." Something flickered across his face. Recognition. Perhaps, or simply pain. "What's your name?" "Renee Carter." Before he could respond, the ambulance arrived. The paramedics efficiently assessed Adrian's injury, confirming Renee's suspicion of a broken ankle. As they prepared to load him into the ambulance, he grabbed Renee's wrist. "Thank you," he said. Most people would have walked by. Renee nodded, acutely aware that it was now 8:10 a.m. Her department meeting was in 20 minutes, and Derek Sloan was notorious for his intolerance of excuses. "I hope you feel better soon, Mr. Cole." "Adrian," he corrected, then winced as the paramedics lifted the stretcher. Would you mind coming with me, just until they get me settled? I hate hospitals." Renee hesitated. This request would certainly cost her her job. But the vulnerability in the CEO's eyes, so at odds with the powerful executive she'd imagined him to be, tugged at her. "Okay," she said, climbing into the ambulance after him. She sent a quick text to her coworker, Lydia, asking her to tell Derek she'd be late due to an emergency. At the hospital, things moved quickly. Adrian was taken for X-rays while Renee sat in the waiting room, nervously checking her phone. 8:45 a.m. Her meeting had started 15 minutes ago, and Lydia had responded with a grim emoji. Derek was furious. By 9:30 a.m., Adrian was diagnosed with a clean break that required a cast but no surgery. Renee stayed, helping him fill out paperwork and contact his assistant, a woman named Carmen Lewis. She learned he had been walking to work rather than taking his usual car service, wanting some fresh air before a stressful board meeting. "You should go," Adrian said as the nurse finished putting on his cast. "You've done more than enough." Renee nodded, gathering her purse. "I hope your ankle heals quickly." "Renee," Adrian called as she reached the door. "Thank you, truly. Not many people would sacrifice their time for a stranger." She smiled, though anxiety churned in her stomach. It was the right thing to do. When Renee finally arrived at Helios at 10:15 a.m., Derek Sloan was waiting by her desk, arms crossed and face thunderous. Lydia shot her a sympathetic look from across the office. "My office, now," Derek barked, turning on his heel. Behind the closed door, Derek didn't bother with pleasantries. "This is the third time you've been late this month, Renee." "I know, but there was an emergency." "There's always an emergency with you," he cut her off. "Single parents always have excuses. I run a department, not a charity." Renee's cheeks burned with indignation. "That's not fair. I've never missed a deadline." "Company policy states 3 tardies equal grounds for termination," Derek said coldly, sliding a paper across the desk. "I've already processed your severance. Clear out your desk by noon." Renee stared at the termination notice, her vision blurring. How would she pay rent? Micah's school fees, his asthma medication? As she packed her meager belongings into a cardboard box, a strange calm settled over her. She had helped someone in need. Consequences be damned. If that cost her a job where her supervisor couldn't understand basic human decency, perhaps it wasn't the right place for her anyway. What Renee couldn't know as she rode the elevator down for the last time was that Adrian Cole was about to arrive at Helios Technologies in a wheelchair, his ankle freshly cast, with questions about the kind woman who had sacrificed her morning to help him, and with the power to change both their lives forever. As Renee exited the Helios Technologies building, the late morning sun momentarily blinded her. She shifted the cardboard box in her arms, containing 5 framed photos of Micah, a small potted succulent, and a coffee mug with "World's Best Mom" painted in Micah's wobbly handwriting. 8 months of employment reduced to a box she could barely fill. Her phone rang. It was Mrs. Johnson. "Renee, dear, is everything okay? You usually call when you get to work." Renee swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm actually not at work anymore, Mrs. Johnson. I got fired." There was a pause on the other end. "Oh my goodness, what happened?" Renee explained briefly while navigating toward the bus stop. She couldn't afford a rideshare today, or maybe any day in the near future. "That's terrible," Mrs. Johnson exclaimed. "For helping someone injured? Who does such a thing?" "Derek Sloan, apparently," Renee sighed, setting her box on the bench at the bus stop. "Look, I'm going to start job hunting right away, but I might need to cut back on childcare hours until I find something." "Nonsense," Mrs. Johnson replied firmly. "Micah stays with me as usual, until you're back on your feet. We'll work out the payment later." Tears welled in Renee's eyes. "I can't ask you to—" "You didn't ask. I offered. That's what neighbors do." Back at her modest 2-bedroom apartment, Renee set the box down on the kitchen counter and slumped onto a chair. She should be updating her resume, making calls to contacts, applying for unemployment benefits. But exhaustion washed over her in waves. She woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. Disoriented, she checked the time. 1:30 p.m. The number on her screen was unfamiliar. "Hello?" she answered groggily. "Is this Renee Carter?" asked a crisp, professional female voice. "Yes, speaking." "This is Carmen Lewis, executive assistant to Adrian Cole at Helios Technologies. Mr. Cole would like to speak with you. Are you available to come to the office tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Renee sat up straight, fully awake now. "Mr. Cole wants to see me? Why?" "He didn't share the specifics with me," Carmen replied, her tone warming slightly. "But he was quite insistent about arranging the meeting as soon as possible." Renee's mind raced. Had Adrian somehow learned about her termination? Was this about this morning's incident? "Tomorrow at 9 a.m. works fine." The next morning, Renee arrived at Helios headquarters 20 minutes early. At the security desk, she hesitated. "I have an appointment with Adrian Cole at 9 a.m. My name is Renee Carter. I don't have my employee badge anymore." The security guard gave her a sympathetic look. "You're on the VIP list this morning. Take the executive elevator all the way to the top floor." The executive elevator was as luxurious inside as out, wood-paneled walls, soft lighting, and completely silent as it ascended. Renee's stomach fluttered with nerves. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a navy blue dress she saved for special occasions, paired with her only decent blazer. The elevator opened directly into a sleek reception area. A striking black woman with silver-streaked natural hair looked up from behind a curved desk. "Ms. Carter? I'm Carmen Lewis. We spoke on the phone." Her handshake was firm, her smile reserved but not unfriendly. "Mr. Cole is expecting you." Carmen led her through a set of double doors into a spacious corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Adrian Cole sat behind a massive desk, his cast-encased foot propped on a cushioned stool. He looked up from his computer screen and smiled. "Renee Carter, please, come in." Carmen quietly withdrew, closing the doors behind her. "Thank you for coming," Adrian said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "How are you feeling after yesterday's excitement?" Renee sat carefully, smoothing her dress. "I should be asking you that, Mr. Cole. How's the ankle?" "Adrian, please," he said. 6 weeks in this contraption, minimum. But it could have been worse." His dark eyes fixed on hers. "I understand you were terminated yesterday." Renee's chest tightened. "Yes, because I was late, helping you." "That was the official reason," Renee admitted, though there were contributing factors. Adrian leaned forward slightly. "Such as?" Renee hesitated. "I'm a single parent. My son Micah is 10. Sometimes childcare issues make punctuality challenging. Mr. Sloan isn't particularly sympathetic to those situations." "I see." Adrian made a note. "Tell me about yourself, Renee. How long have you been in administrative work?" Over the next 20 minutes, Adrian asked about her education, work history, and long-term career goals. Renee found herself speaking more candidly than she'd planned, drawn out by Adrian's genuine interest. "And what about Micah?" Adrian asked, surprising her. "What's he like?" Renee smiled, her eyes softening. "He's brilliant, science-obsessed, builds robots out of cardboard boxes. He wants to be an engineer or an astronaut, or both, depending on the day." "Sounds like a remarkable kid," Adrian said. "Does he have any health issues I should be aware of?" The question caught Renee off guard. "He has asthma. It's usually well controlled with medication, but—" She trailed off, wondering why she was sharing this. Adrian nodded, making another note. "I appreciate your candor, Renee. Now I've kept you in suspense long enough." He sat back. "I owe you an apology and a debt of gratitude. Your assistance yesterday went far beyond what most would offer a stranger." "Anyone would have helped," Renee demurred. "We both know that's not true," Adrian countered gently. "I watched at least 5 people walk past before you stopped." He continued, "I've looked into the circumstances of your termination. Derek Sloan exceeded his authority. Company policy allows for managerial discretion in cases of documented emergencies. Hope fluttered in Renee's chest. Does that mean— I'd like to offer you a position, Adrian said. Not your old job. Something different. I need an executive assistant. Carmen is being promoted to operations director next month. The role would involve managing my schedule, coordinating with department heads, some travel arrangements. The salary would be roughly double what you were making, plus improved benefits and greater schedule flexibility. Renee's mind reeled. Why me? You must have dozens of qualified candidates. Adrian leaned back. Do you know what I value most in my team, Renee? It's not fancy degrees, it's character, integrity, the courage to do the right thing, even when it's costly. He gestured to his ankle. Yesterday morning, you demonstrated those qualities. There's more, he continued. Helios is launching a philanthropic initiative, the Helios Hope Initiative. It will focus on supporting single parents in the workforce. I'd like you to serve as the foundation's liaison in addition to your executive assistant duties. The opportunity seemed almost too perfect. This is incredibly generous, she said carefully. But I can't help wondering if this is charity because you feel obligated. It's not charity, Renee. It's recognition of the qualities Helios needs in its leadership team. Renee took a deep breath. When would I start? How's tomorrow? Adrian asked with a slight grin. Tomorrow would be perfect, Renee replied, a smile breaking across her face. Thank you. I won't let you down. 3 months into her new position, Renee barely recognized her life. Her tiny apartment had been traded for a sun-filled 2-bedroom condo with a rooftop garden where Micah could stargaze through his new telescope. Her daily commute now included a company car service, a necessity for the CEO's right hand, Adrian had insisted. The Helios Hope Initiative had become her passion project. Working alongside Adrian, she'd helped shape programs that would provide real support to families like hers. The initiative would launch officially next month, and Renee would speak at the Gala alongside Adrian. Her phone chimed with a text from Adrian. Need your help with the Brightline proposal. Dinner meeting at Luca's Bistro, 7 p.m. Car will pick you up at 6:30. Mrs. Johnson confirmed she can watch Micah. Renee had grown accustomed to these last-minute requests. Adrian respected her boundaries as a parent, but his position sometimes required evening work. The transformation in Renee's professional life had been remarkable. Under Carmen's tutelage, she'd quickly mastered corporate protocol, learned to anticipate Adrian's needs, and built relationships with Helios's senior leadership. Derek Sloan had been quietly transferred to a subsidiary office, a move Renee suspected wasn't coincidental. What surprised her most was the evolution of her relationship with Adrian. What had begun as formal appreciation had developed into genuine friendship. They worked seamlessly together, often finishing each other's sentences. He valued her input, and she admired his vision. Micah adored him, especially after Adrian arranged a private tour of the local science museum's robotics exhibit. Rumors circulated through Helios's gossip channels. Some speculated about the nature of their relationship. Renee ignored the whispers, focusing on proving her worth through impeccable work. At precisely 6:30 p.m., Renee kissed Micah goodbye and descended to the waiting town car. The driver, Reggie, greeted her warmly. Evening, Miss Carter. We're picking up Mr. Cole first this time. When the car pulled up to Adrian's brownstone, he emerged leaning slightly on his cane. The cast had come off 2 weeks ago. Despite this concession to his injury, he cut an impressive figure in his charcoal suit. Sorry for the last-minute meeting, he said, sliding into the seat beside her. It's no problem, Renee assured him, passing him the tablet with her notes. I've highlighted the sections that needed clarification. Adrian scrolled through her notes, nodding appreciatively. This is excellent work, Renee. I don't know how I managed without you. Probably with a lot more coffee and a lot less sleep, she quipped. He laughed, and Renee felt a now familiar warmth spread through her chest. She'd become adept at ignoring these feelings, the quickening of her pulse when he smiled, the pleasant flutter when their hands accidentally touched. Professional boundaries were essential. Luca's Bistro was Adrian's preferred venue for important business discussions. The maitre d' immediately escorted them to a private dining room where the client waited. The dinner progressed smoothly. Renee contributed when appropriate, her insights particularly well received. As they left the restaurant 2 hours later, Renee felt profound satisfaction. "That went better than expected," Adrian remarked, as they slid back into the town car. "Your suggestion about phased implementation addressed his main concern." "Thank you," she said, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting in the dimly lit back seat. "It's nearly 10 p.m., Adrian pointed out gently when Renee mentioned reviewing Gala arrangements. "Let's get you home to Micah." When they arrived at Renee's condo, Adrian insisted on walking her to the lobby. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "Your contribution was invaluable." "Just doing my job," Renee replied with a smile. Adrian's expression grew serious. "It's more than that, and we both know it. Renee, there's something I've been meaning to discuss with you." The elevator doors opened. When Renee looked back at Adrian, something in his eyes made her pulse quicken. "Yes?" she prompted. Adrian shook his head slightly. "Not here, not now. It can wait until after the foundation launch. We should both focus on making that successful. Good night, Adrian." "Good night, Renee." The following weeks passed in a blur of foundation preparations. 2 days before the gala, Renee was reviewing materials in Adrian's office when Carmen knocked. "Adrian, Vanessa Hart is here to see you." Renee saw Adrian's posture stiffen. "I don't have anything scheduled with Vanessa." "She says it's urgent," Carmen replied, her tone carefully neutral. Adrian sighed. "Send her in." As Carmen withdrew, he turned to Renee. "Vanessa Hart is my ex-wife." Before Adrian could say more, the door opened, and Vanessa swept in. Tall, impeccably dressed, with sleek, natural hair and sharp features, she radiated confident authority. Her dark skin was flawless, her presence commanding. "Adrian," she greeted coolly before her gaze settled on Renee. "I'd like to speak with you privately." "Renee is my executive assistant," Adrian replied, his tone matching Vanessa's temperature. "Anything you need to discuss can be said in her presence." Vanessa's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. "Very well. I'm returning to the city permanently. Graymont and Hart is opening a branch office here, and they've offered me managing partnership." "Congratulations," Adrian said evenly, "but I'm not sure why this required an unscheduled visit." Vanessa's gaze flicked to Renee. "I thought we might reconsider our situation, given the change in circumstances." The implication hung in the air. Renee felt suddenly out of place. "I should give you privacy," she murmured, gathering her materials. "That's not necessary," Adrian said. But Renee was already at the door. "I'll check on the catering arrangements. Carmen has my number if you need anything." In her own office, Renee sat heavily, her heart pounding. The poised, beautiful Vanessa was exactly the type of woman she would have pictured with Adrian. Against that image, Renee felt hopelessly outclassed. More troubling was her emotional reaction. The sharp pang of jealousy confirmed what she'd been trying to deny. She had fallen in love with her boss. That evening, as Micah slept, Renee sat on her balcony, confronting reality. Her feelings for Adrian had grown steadily, nurtured by his kindness, intelligence, and respect, but acting on those feelings risked everything. Her phone chimed. "Are you all right? You left abruptly. See you tomorrow." Adrian. Renee stared at the screen. "Just needed to help Micah with his science project. All set for the gala rehearsal tomorrow." His response came quickly. "Vanessa's visit was unexpected. Nothing to worry about. See you tomorrow." Nothing to worry about. The words echoed, as Renee tried to interpret their meaning. The next morning, Renee arrived early, determined to maintain absolute professionalism. The gala rehearsal was scheduled for noon at the Silverstone Hotel. When Adrian arrived looking slightly harried, Renee kept her tone light. The rehearsal proceeded smoothly. Renee's presentation on the Foundation's mission was compelling, interweaving statistics with personal anecdotes. "That was powerful," Adrian said afterward. "You're going to move people tomorrow night." "I hope so," she replied. "These programs could change lives." "They already have," Adrian said quietly. "Mine included." That evening, Micah bubbled with excitement. "Can I see your dress again, Mom?" Renee retrieved the midnight blue gown from her closet, another gift from Adrian. The floor-length silk creation with subtle silver embellishments was more elegant than anything she'd ever owned. "You're going to look like a princess," Micah declared. "Is Mr. Adrian going to be there?" "Of course. He's the founder." Micah nodded sagely. "He likes you, you know." Renee nearly dropped the hanger. "What makes you say that?" "The way he looks at you, like Dad used to look at you in the old pictures before he left." Tyler's observation, delivered with childish directness, struck Renee speechless. "Plus, he told me—" "He what?" "When he took me to the Science Museum, he asked if I'd mind if he spent more time with you. I told him it was okay as long as he didn't make you cry like Dad did." Renee sat heavily on the bed. "Micah, what exactly did Adrian say?" Micah shrugged. "He said he cared about you a lot and wanted to know if I'd be okay with him taking you on a real date sometime. I told him you like Italian food and hate scary movies." Adrian had discussed dating her with her son weeks ago, but had never broached the subject with her directly. Was this what he'd wanted to talk about the night Vanessa returned? The next evening, as Renee prepared for the gala, her thoughts remained tangled. Mrs. Johnson fussed over Micah while Renee applied finishing touches to her makeup. "You look beautiful," Mrs. Johnson declared. "That boss of yours won't know what hit him." Renee blushed. "It's not like that, Mrs. Johnson." The older woman gave her a knowing look. "If you say so, dear." The Silverstone's ballroom had been transformed. Soft lighting, elegant arrangements, Helios Hope Initiative banners tastefully displayed. Renee arrived early to ensure everything was in place. She was checking the presentation setup when she heard Adrian's voice behind her. "Renee?" She turned to find him standing in the entrance, impeccable in his tuxedo. For a moment she couldn't speak. "The room looks perfect," he said, approaching her. "As do you." "Thank you," she managed. "Is Vanessa attending tonight?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Adrian's expression shifted to confusion. "Vanessa? No. Why would she?" "I assumed since she's back in town that you might have reconciled." Understanding dawned on Adrian's face. "Is that why you've been avoiding me?" He shook his head, smiling. "Renee, Vanessa, and I have been divorced for 3 years. Her return changes nothing." "But," she said, "the reason for our separation was that we wanted different lives," Adrian explained gently. "That hasn't changed. She's career-focused. I want—" He paused, stepping closer. "I want something quite different." The air between them seemed to vibrate with possibility. "What do you want, Adrian?" she asked softly. "I think you know," he replied. "I've wanted to talk to you about it for weeks. Then Vanessa showed up, and you started avoiding me. Micah told me you spoke with him. About us." Adrian looked momentarily abashed. "I should have talked to you first." "It was," Renee agreed, "but also sweet." She met his gaze. "Adrian, we work together. You're my boss. There are 1,000 reasons why this is complicated." "I know," he acknowledged. "And if you tell me you're not interested, I'll never mention it again." He took another step forward. "But if there's any chance you might feel the same way I do, I think we owe it to ourselves to explore that." "And what way is that?" Renee asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Adrian reached for her hand. "I'm falling in love with you, Renee Carter. Not because you helped me when I was injured, but because of who you are. Your intelligence, your kindness, your strength, the way you advocate for Micah and others like him, the way you challenge me to be better." Renee's breath caught. "Adrian, The ballroom doors swung open as the catering staff arrived. Adrian reluctantly released her hand. "We should finish this conversation later," Renee said, composing herself. "The guests will be arriving soon." Adrian nodded. "Tonight, after the event, dinner, just the two of us." Renee smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "I'd like that." The gala unfolded beautifully. Renee's presentation received a standing ovation. The foundation was officially launched with twice the initial funding secured. Throughout the evening, Renee was aware of Adrian's gaze following her. Occasionally their eyes would meet, and silent communication sent thrills of anticipation through her. As the event wound down, Adrian approached. "Ready for that dinner?" The restaurant Adrian chose was small and intimate. As they enjoyed their late dinner, conversation flowed easily. "Where do we go from here?" Renee asked. "Professionally, I mean. There will be talk." "There's already talk," Adrian pointed out. "But I understand your concern. We could restructure your role if you'd prefer." Renee nodded. "That might be best, at least initially." Outside the restaurant, snow had begun to fall lightly. "I know this is complicated," Adrian said, taking both her hands. "And we have a lot to figure out. But I want you to know I'm serious about this. About us. Whatever challenges come, we'll face them together." Renee looked up at him, snowflakes catching in his dark hair. 6 months ago, she'd been a struggling single mother, desperate to keep a job that barely covered her bills. Now she stood with a man who respected her mind, valued her work, adored her son, and somehow loved her. "Together sounds perfect," she whispered, rising on tiptoes to press her lips gently to his. As Adrian's arms enfolded her, deepening the kiss as snowflakes swirled around them, Renee felt the final pieces of her new life clicking into place. When they finally broke apart, Adrian's eyes shone with happiness. "I should get you home to Micah." "Yes," Renee agreed. "But tomorrow, maybe you could come over for dinner. Micah's been wanting to show you his volcano project." "I'd like that very much," Adrian replied, brushing a snowflake from her cheek. As they drove through the falling snow, her hand clasped firmly in Adrian's, Renee reflected on the strange, wonderful journey that had brought her here. One act of kindness on a hectic morning had changed everything, not just for her and Micah, but for countless families who would benefit from the foundation born from that chance encounter. Some might call it fate. Renee preferred to think of it as proof that doing the right thing, even when difficult, could lead to possibilities beyond imagination. And as Adrian's thumb traced gentle circles on her palm, she silently thanked the universe for that rainy morning when being late to work had somehow led her exactly where she was meant to be.